Domestic and sexual violence happens to millions of people every year. The Centre County Women's Resource Center provides confidential, free services to victims of domestic violence, dating violence, stalking, and sexual assault. These services include a 24-hour hotline, emergency shelter, counseling, legal and medical advocacy, and prevention programs. Please visit us on Facebook or at ccwrc.org or call 1-877-234-5050.
You're watching CNET, Centre County's Government and Educational Access Network.
All right, good morning. Welcome to the 25th Focus on Strong Families Conference. Yes. My name is Connie Schultz, and I am a family outreach specialist for State College School District. I've been a co-chairwoman for this conference since 1986, so for all of them. Yes, you can translate that any way you want. But I am so filled with joy to be here celebrating 25 years with all of you. I always like to ask for a show of hands. How many of you are here for the first time? Raise your hands. A lot of you, welcome and enjoy today. How many of you have been here 5 times or more? Raise your hands. Look around, there are a lot of you here. All right. Anyone 10 years or more? Okay, all right, yep, you're out there. All right, we thought we'd stop there because, you know, you tend to feel old. Does anyone want to raise their hands if they've been here 20 or more? All right. Whether you're here for the first time or the 20th, we hope you enjoy the day and share our excitement. Today, we'd like to honor our founder, Nancy Desmond, who had the idea to put together this conference. And she invited a group of people. The group included the former director of the Child Development and Family Council and several faculty from the College of Human Development at Penn State. Nancy, could you please come up here? Nancy, if you hadn't thought of it, we might not be here today. So thank you so much for your vision. And, you know, really. We need one for grandparents, she says. Yes. I think we have some grandparents in the audience out there, proudly waving hands. There are so many people who make this program possible, and our partnerships have made this event what it is. We are going to now see a short video in which the 3 of us chairwomen and one of our longest time supporters of the conference summarize our feelings and memories. One of us was at a loss for words, but the other said it very well. So I am told this is going to work.
Have great sessions the day of the conference for families, some for children to participate in as well, and then we have a fantastic outreach display. And that is a situation where parents can come and select all kinds of information on everything imaginable. And so the conference sort of exists as a whole, which I think is really unique.
when I came on board, one of the things that I added to the conference was our youth program. And since then, we average anywhere from 50 to 80 infants all the way up to teenagers participating in the conference. And so it makes it truly a family event, which I think is really, really great.
I hate to be cliche, right? Think globally, act locally. And that's, again, one of the true joys about the Strong Family Conference that we have here every year, is it's, again, the opportunity to come together as a local community, remind ourselves of the strengths and resiliency that we have, not just all these stressors that are on the news every night, and figure out how to really support and enjoy one another day to day, and re-ground ourselves in that truth.
So it's been really, I think, a miraculous experience to be involved with so many people for so many years, and to watch new people come in and people remain. The partnerships I think that we've had have just been amazing.
We do offer scholarships. We've never turned a parent away because of lack of financial resources, and thanks to the support of SendClear, we're able to do that.
Again, it's the contributions of everyone that makes this what it is and has grown it from where it started to where it is now.
It's a powerful day. It is just a wonderful experience to be amongst some hundreds of people that are all joined together to celebrate being families and caring about families and working with families and learning.
A lot of the topics have really stayed very much the same.
You know, parents continually worry, how is my child doing? Are they doing well enough? Are they happy? Are they going to be successful?
That very first year, we had a session on family stress. And, you know, the way it was framed was everything to do with time.
We've always spent a lot of time focusing on the three main aspects, I'd say, of child development. There's the developmental issues, the temperamental issues, and the environmental issues.
Health, and particularly mental health, has always been a focus.
What are the, again, developmental challenges we're going to be facing in toddlerhood or during the school years or the teen years?
Creativity. And creativity in terms of how you manage as a parent. What are some different things you can do if something isn't working, or what can you do differently now that times are changing?
At the human level, at the parent and child level, the family level, the community level, when we focus on that, we can come back together and figure out how to cope with the big things. Because day to day, we can say to our child, we're making these health conscious choices in our family. We're making these environmental choices in our family.
Communication, talking. I wish we could talk about drugs and alcohol in our family.
You know, many parents, especially of young children coming into the world today, wonder and worry about what type of world is my child going to grow up in.
Families managing in the larger world, I think, kind of dealing with what's out there has always been there, but I would say that's probably become even more relevant today.
That's one of the big changes that I've seen over the years, is that we have the adult world literally being downloaded onto kids at younger and younger ages, and there's just more stress and a more frantic pace in life and that we've been dealing with.
One thing that's really impressed me about the conference is its affordability.
By and large, we do this for free, which is great. It doesn't, none of the presenters for the most part charge us money, so it is that community collaborative response.
And that not only includes the programming for the day, but also lunch and the refreshments. And where can you go to a full-day conference for $20 these days?
But what I love is that you have the 3 breakout sessions throughout the day, and there is such a wide, delicious menu of child-serving workshops that we have on it, ranging across all topics. Again, children's individual temperament, individual differences, the stresses of family life and how to manage it, whether it be divorce or moving or just daily life. There's just... It's a candy shop of wonderful things, really, for when it comes to parenting and taking care of our kids. It's truly a great event.
Even after all of these years, we're going to keep going. and we'll be back the year after that and the year after that. We have such a strong network of people that believe in the importance of families and of what they do, and believe that there should be this opportunity that, as Donna said, was affordable and easy for people to go to, and that their whole families can come to. And I think it's just a really exciting and moving experience.
We do want to We have a lot of people that we thank for this month. We're just going to run by that we also really want to thank CNET for putting together this interview and the program. Thank you, CNET. Thank you. But the young woman who put it together is Stephanie Yeager. And is Stephanie here? She was going to be coming.
Okay, so we will gather our thoughts as we go, but my job, for which I am extremely proud, is to introduce our keynote today, who will also be doing 3 sessions afterwards. And I forget the total number of sessions that Peter has done, but some totally phenomenal numbers, started in the early 90s to be available to us. And many of us have known him in our personal lives and our professional lives. I think Peter has been almost everywhere in the community, helping us all think more wisely about how to approach children as well as families. Dr. Peter Montminy is a clinical child psychologist, family wellness coach, and father of 4, to name a few of his roles. Educated at Dartmouth, Penn State, and Yale Medical School's Child Study Center. He was the director of Child and Adolescent Services at Penn State Psych Clinic before becoming the founding director and continuing director of Midstep Centers for Child Development in 1996. Many of us get his newsletter by email and wait for it breathlessly to find out what we could do differently. So he's done therapeutic work with children and families. He's consulted with schools, child care programs throughout the state. He delights in offering highly interactive parent and teacher workshops that are filled with love, laughter, and learning. And I had a thought. Peter is really going to be talking today throughout the day about time choicing for busy parents, how to stop stressing and start loving your life and kids again. And I started thinking about him, and in my own life, probably one of the most important folks that helped guide me was T. Barry Brazelton. Some of you probably know of him. And he wrote a book about infants and mothers and all the different types of babies, and he's talked about how you can touch in with families at important times. And I think for me personally, and I'm sure I can speak for many of us, Peter is our local T. Barry Brazelton in a very different sort of way. He's not a pediatrician, although we might wish that he was. And I just want to say a special thank you to Peter for being there for me, for my kids who are now just embarking on parenting themselves and marriage and all that good stuff. And I know we wouldn't all be in as good shape as we were without him personally from his sessions here. So I welcome you, Peter, and you are on.
Let's see why. That's what we're here to do today, is to talk about, again, how to enjoy the journey more. Why? Why is that so important? And the first step in making conscious choices about how we're spending our time is to really pause and reflect, what am I doing here and why am I here? So towards that end, and if we can have a little bit, I don't know how to balance the light here, we'll see if you can do this. But I'm going to ask you to now, from your handout, please rip off the back page of your stapled handout, and we are going to do a little exercise together here. And I'm going to ask you to consider answering for a few minutes and setting your intentions for this morning and setting your intentions for this day. So on that back page, which you've ripped off now, and we're going to use as kind of a workshop worksheet or play sheet for the next hour, I want you to go ahead and indicate briefly, obviously, if you're here primarily as a parent or a teacher or both or some other role. and circle the ages of any of your children at home or in the workplace if you're here primarily as a teacher. And then take a minute to let's reflect on why you're here and answer these questions if you would, please. First one, what are your 3 biggest challenges in parenting today? So jot down briefly, we're here doing a reflection on why are you here, what are your challenges that you're facing, and go ahead and jot down 2 or 3 of them right now. As you reflect on that, you can move on to then the second question. What's your biggest worry as a parent? What keeps you up at night? What do you worry about the most about your kids nowadays? And if you had to pick one word that describes your most frequent feeling as a parent nowadays, what's the number one feeling that you experience in your parenting life or your teaching life? Pick one word, the feeling you feel the most often these days while you're trying to do your job as a caring parent. And as you reflect on those challenges and those concerns, go ahead then and set your intention for what you hope to get out of this morning, what you hope to get out of today, why you're here, why you took the time to come and care enough to grow in how you can continue to work and live and love your children. What do you hope to get out of being here today? And in a sentence or a phrase, go ahead and set that intention about what you hope to learn about today, a question you have, a goal you hope to get out of. If you're bothering to spend your time here today, what do you want to get from it? I want you to be active and engaged both for this hour and throughout the rest of the day, not passively kind of receiving information, but actively engaging in the process with purpose and intention. And with having set that attention of what you hope to get out of today, let's see what we can do with the rest of our first hour in meeting some of those needs and some of those hopes. I want you to give some focus to why you're here. Why am I here? Professionally, because I have seen over and over again the toll that today's modern age is taking on people. Again, the speeded up demands, as were said in the film earlier, and as you're well aware of, and as I have an article in your handout that you can read when you take it home, it's talking about the daily pressures that we feel from our kids, the challenges, the friction points, the demanding, the want, the negotiating. Anyone feel like I just wish I could say it and it would get done, but find that that's all too seldom the case because we're all running, and then banging heads much more often than we want. When what we want is to be able to have fun, to dance and laugh and relax and have fun with our children and our families more. But we find that we're on this constant treadmill all too often. The information age, the digital age, has absolutely speeded up time. 24/7 we're plugged in. There's less and less downtime, and we're going to talk some more about that as we move forward. And I'm here then to try to offer and share some ways, again, of combating that particular demand that we're facing here in the 2011 year. And we're going to put, hopefully, personally, I'm here to remind myself, every time I give this talk and work with a family in my office, I really reflect on how am I able to grow and learn from this, and I always do. So I really look forward for us having an interaction throughout the day today and growing together in our commitment to improve that village that it does take to raise a child, and again is our very purpose for this conference. So I look forward to sharing that journey with you and offer that commitment to you from me, that I set that intention for us to grow and focus on this funny word that we've been playing with for a while now called time choicing. What the heck does that mean? It's simply making a conscious choice about how you spend your time in order to live your best life. Your handouts are not PowerPoint slides. They're kind of some reference materials and exercises for you. For those of you interested in a copy of the PowerPoint slide, I'm very happy to send it to you, and at the end you can just make a note of that on the sheet that I'm going to ask you to hand in, and I'll be glad to send you the PowerPoint slides. So just enjoy those without trying to, they're not in your papers, okay? When we're not consciously making those choices, we're often making a whole bunch of mistakes along the way or facing a whole bunch of challenges. And I'm going to briefly go over with you the top 10 that I find in my work with families. And the first one is tunnel vision. We're caught up in the moment and we just have to solve this problem, and we're looking for the silver bullet or the single solution to why is he behaving that way? Why is he having that tantrum? Why can't we just get him to bed? Why can't she sit down and do her homework right now? How am I going to get to practice on time? How are we going to get out the door on time, right? And we're focused on the problem and challenge at the moment and trying to go, why does she do that? Why does he do that? Why can't they just listen? And we get stuck in that with tunnel vision without being able to zoom out and take the bigger perspective, take a deep breath and realize the different contributions of you know, the sleep the night before, or our personality, or the way we're asking it, or whether we've really taken a measure of the child's temperament and how they best work. Have we really zoomed out to reflect on the major contributions to why that child is behaving that way? Or are we locked in certain ways of thinking where we've lost perspective? And in so doing, we're creating or amplifying the friction and the frustration rather than stepping back and getting a bigger picture view of it. Related to that is we spend our time chasing one incident after another, and feeling like we've got to do this, this, and this. I have to, but I have to get it done. I have to get it done. Anyone catch themselves saying that, you know? But we just have to get out the door. And think, what's with the have to, right? And we're going to talk about changing I have to do it, or I've got to do it, to I get to do it, okay? I've got to get you to soccer practice on time. Hurry up, get in the car. I get to take you to soccer practice tonight. We are blessed enough to be able to participate in the soccer program. Hear the difference in the language. Now, again, do I go home and perfectly practice this? No. But when I can take a deep breath and remember to do this, we can have a different, more positive energy about how we spend our days, rather than running around chasing and putting out too many fires in the moment, because we're not focusing on what's most important to us. We haven't set our priorities and set our intentions on how we want to be doing this interaction or this part of the daily routine with our children. And often we're trying to do that and run around with our tunnel vision of, oh, we've got to get this done right now, and putting out too many fires, one thing after another, running on empty, right? If you have yourself planned a vacation trip that you've really been looking forward to, and you're all excited and you have this destination, you want to get to that vacation, and you get in the car and you get out on the highway and you're ready to make this long distance trip, and you get barreling down the highway and you're all excited about getting that goal. We're going to have happiness at the end when we get to this goal. By golly, damn it, we're going to have fun. Sorry, TV. Yeah, I do that sometimes, so I forgot about that. Okay, and we're barreling down the highway, and we're going to get there, and we're all excited, and we're, you know, first hour, second hour, third hour, and the needle's starting to go to E. This needle's starting to go to E. That's okay, I don't have to pay attention. I don't have to get off and take care of it. I'm going to get there anyway. I just want to get there, right? And we keep barreling on, and if we don't get off and fill the tank, what happens? Duh. Now, we know that, so we stop and get off the highway. We get gas. We might even let the kids out to go to the restroom, depending on how determined we are to get to Boston to see the relatives on time. My wife is shaking her head. I can't believe he's talking like this. Let her get up and tell you the real story, right? Okay, kaput, you run out of gas. But we will stop and fill the tank because we know we need it to get there. We take better care of our cars than we do ourselves. As parents today, one of the biggest problems is you're so busy running on empty, you're not stopping and recharging your battery, refilling your gas tank. No, I don't have time for me. I got to take care of my kids. I can't worry about that. Can't afford taking care of me. Got to, worry about my kids. Hello, right? What's wrong with this picture? So the first 3 mistakes are all about taking care of the caregiver first, the proverbial, right? Got to put the oxygen mask on the parent first before you can give it to the kid to save them, because if you're already unconscious on the floor, we're no good to our kids, right? So we know this, and it's a cliche, but where and how can we practice this? And in fact, for again, the rest of this morning's keynote, we're going to particularly focus on how to take this first step of taking enough time off to recharge and re-energize yourself first, so that the whole rest of it, all the good tips you get for the rest of the day about how to go home and manage temper tantrums or sleep problems or all sorts of other things that you may be going to workshops for the rest of the day, you can actually apply because you've stopped to take care of yourself first. A failure to communicate. After you've really made sure you've taken enough time off to take care of yourself, then we want to pay attention to how we're building positive relationships and having more fun before we need to deal with the conflicts. And the first one is really being mindful of our communication. And the strategies that I use in my coaching sessions and programs with families is very much based on Covey's notion of seek first to understand and then to be understood. How many of our conflicts and difficulties and failures to communicate is because we're trying to get our point across without doing what first? Really listening, okay? Not just not just hearing, but listening to what the meaning of what the other person is saying or wanting or trying to communicate. And taking that in, reflecting on it, and then offering a thoughtful reply. And obviously we can talk about how to do that. But communication patterns are too often one way, unilateral, and they sound like this. Hurry up, get your shoes on, got to go out the door, right? Rather than a conversation. And so we want to work on that when we can. Related to that is that in today's day and age, being plugged in but feeling disconnected. And that many kids and parents, the kids are plugged into the multiple digital machines, and we can be in the same room together and not even really be connected in a human way, right? Now, there are ways to use cell phones to stay more connected with our kids, and it absolutely can be a tool that can be a blessing to be put to good use when we make conscious choices about how we're using those tools, right? We can have Facebook be a connecting opportunity, or it can be a distancing opportunity. We can have cell phones be a connecting opportunity for us and our kids, or it can be a distancing one. And the question is, are we stopping to think about how we are plugged in and when and how we're having unplugged time as well? My wife and I were celebrating a birthday with close friends last night. We were out to dinner, and we spent most of the dinner talking about this very phenomenon and when and how to have unplugged time, offline time, and balance that. I just came back from a 3-day neuroscience conference, national conference in San Francisco, on this very topic about the I generation and literally how the digital age is changing our children's brains and the early development, and how we need to really understand that and take control, conscious choice. Can't go back in time. You can't live in a bubble. You can, but there's pros and cons to all your choices. So it's how do we, again, manage this in the most constructive, healthy way. A lost sense of belonging. With all this run, tunnel vision, putting out fires, being disconnected, we've lost a sense of belongingness to greater community. Now, those of us who are here today I might be preaching to the choir. You're here because you care enough to be a part of not just your family's lives, but our community. And God bless us, each and every one, for being here and doing that today. But often people are feeling like they're in isolation and they're just running and alone. And where do we get that belonging? By contributing to and both receiving and giving to others in our community and being part of different groups in a measured way, in a conscious way, not overscheduled with too many activities and community events and groups, but just enough so we feel not isolated or overwhelmed. Unrealistic expectations. When we take care of ourselves first and then when we take care of our relationships, we're still going to have conflict. We're going to have those behavioral difficulties, emotional challenging difficulties with our children. What are the mistakes busy parents are making? Having unrealistic or not thought out expectations for our children. Are we really, again, expecting our child to be able to do what we want them to do? And have we set that up for success by how we communicate those expectations, more positively or negatively, consistently or not, specifically or vaguely? Saying, well, my kid's irresponsible and they just need to shape up isn't a very helpful expectation. If we start there, we need to start saying, wait a minute, how do we want the child to be more responsible? And how does that match this child's developmental level, this child's temperament, and the environmental circumstances we have? So we work on how to deal with realistic expectations for our children and be more mindful about setting the child up for success. Another common problem is focusing on the problem rather than on the solution. When we're concerned about a homework problem or a bedtime problem or a talking back problem, we usually focus on the problem. You stop mouthing off. If you don't knock it off, you're not going to be able to, if you don't stop fighting with your sister, you're not going to be able to play with that toy anymore. If you don't get to bed right now, we're going to take that away from you. It's if you don't, then you won't. Focusing on the problem, which sounds very positive and supportive, right? The alternative is to be focusing what? On the solution, and to be talking more mindfully about when you can play nicely with your brother on that, then you can keep playing the game, okay? When you've gotten to bed on time, then we'll be able to have a fun bedtime story. Now, I actually want you to keep the bedtime story in there anyway, so that may not be the best example. But let's focus on the problem and change our language with our children from don't to do. Inconsistent and ineffective with our consequences. How many of you feel like, I've told them over and over again to stop doing that, I just can't find a way to get them to stop doing it. I've tried everything, nothing will work, right? Or we try these different things and they work for a little bit, but then it doesn't seem to matter to the child anymore. So how do we strategically and effectively guide our children through this? These last 3 steps, I want you to know, is what we're going to be mostly talking about in my workshops throughout the rest of the day. And again, we're going to talk about just the beginning parts of this. But this is the overall time choicing coaching program that I work with families, and we work through all of this. The 10th most common mistake is parents trying to go it alone and feeling they should do it. Everyone else, look at that family across the street. They're perfect. They're doing wonderful. Why don't they have any of these problems? I don't dare share that I'm struggling with this. And we have a sense of guilt, of inadequacy, of embarrassment that doesn't allow us to reach out and get the support, whether it be in our schools or our churches, our neighborhoods, professional support with counselors or coaches, whatever it might be. Recognize that we are all in this together. It does take a village, and we don't need to go it alone. So with this in mind, I'm going to challenge you again to take a look in your handout now for the Busy Parents Quiz. And I'm going to ask you to take a few minutes and go ahead. Y'all finding it? The Busy Parents Quiz. And for each of these 10 items, I want you to go ahead and read it and rate yourself on a scale from 1 to 10 about how well you feel you're doing with each of these modern challenges of the most common mistakes or common challenges that I see in families I work with. Take a few minutes again to actively engage and not just have me babble at you. And rate yourself on a scale from 1 to 10 with, I'm not very good at this is a real problem for me, to, I'm doing this a lot, this is a real strength and a success. And go ahead and take a few minutes if you would, please. As I tell kids and parents in my office, the only right answer is an honest answer. The only wrong answer is a dishonest answer. And you're not sending this sheet anywhere. This is just for yourself. It's about taking an honest look in the mirror and, again, a chance to reflect consciously on how things are going right now for you, currently. How many of you have completed the questionnaire? Raise your hand. Right, we're still working on it. That's good. Another few minutes. That's good. We want you to be thoughtful. Okay, how many of you had some 1s, 2s, 3s, and 4s? How many of you had some 8s, 9s, and 10s? Right? Almost everybody has some of each. And again, we're taking that first step to zoom out and look at the big picture and recognize our strengths as well as our struggles to be able to, again, make more conscious choices about what we need to be working on, or to recognize and appreciate the strengths we have and celebrate those and not always feel so beat down or struggling. So, I'm going to ask you to take another couple of minutes now to turn to the person next to you and do a pair share for just a couple minutes. I invite you to share with the person next to you each what one of your greatest struggles is, what one of your lowest numbers you just rated was, and then follow that up with what one of your highest strengths is. And look the person in the eye and tell them, I'm struggling with this, and I'm really good at this. And let the other person reflect that back to you, and then take a turn. So share your greatest strength and struggle with your neighbor, please. Own it! Own it! Come on, make it real! Okay, if you're still on the first person, switch so you both get a chance to share. Give you another 2 minutes. If you've both already done it, great, but make sure you both get to do it. Am I what?
Are you stretching the time?
Yeah. No, if anything, I'm trying to like. Yeah. I mean, we started late, so I'm going to go all the way to. I mean, man, I didn't. All right, thank you. I love I love the energy in the room and would love to just let you keep going. This is great stuff. Do you feel it? Do you feel empowered by recognizing, hey, I'm struggling with this, I can own that, and I'm really good with this? Did it feel good to say, hey, here's something I do really well, right? So, we want to take that and see what we can do with it moving forward. That's what we want to pay attention to. Why do we want to bother? Because if we don't pay attention to these things more consciously, we have a plethora of modern day ailments and difficulties that we're all struggling with. And you're familiar with them. I don't need to read this to you or repeat them, though again, in the bigger programs that I do, we spend some time understanding this better. But needless to say, does anyone in this room feel like they are experiencing a lot of stress day to day? If you are, raise your hand. Okay, a moderate degree of stress, raise your hand. You're stress-free, raise your hand and come on up here, please, and take the microphone. Okay? All right, great. So we know that we have all these things, and again, at this neuropsych conference I was at, we're seeing it on the brain level. We're seeing all these problems in kids and adults, and let alone the aging process. We need to be paying attention to taking literally a deep breath and stepping back from all the demands. So let's get on again about how we can do that. My model of time choicing is all about mindful caregiving and receiving, and where it's really a three-part model, as you've heard me mention now already. The first part is taking time off to recharge and re-energize yourself, your body, your mind, and your spirit. And we are here during this hour to work on that part, because again, without it, we're not able to give more positive time in to our loving relationships, have more fun, laughter, joy, and build up the emotional bonds that we need to draw upon for when it comes time to call time out, to resolve the conflicts and the hassles of day-to-day living with kids or spouses or anybody, right? So this three-part model is really my offer of a solution for managing the demands that we're facing today. This is actually an elaboration on it. You'll be spared this. There'll be no pop quiz on this. You'll be glad to know. But I do have later this spring an 8-week parenting boot camp, I'm going to be calling it. We're going to intensively get into how to actually implement these ideas and make them real for you. So if you're interested in that, you can again let me know, and we'll give you more information about that later this spring. Today, again, let's just touch on kind of a sampling of some of these things, and how we really can best take time off is a three-part process as well. Increasing our awareness, which you've already just spent time doing, an awareness of where am I, what's working, what's not working, and increasingly what's most important. And for the second half of this presentation, we're going to really spend more time on zooming back in after we zoom out and kind of look at what's working and not, like you just did a little bit. We're going to zoom in and pay a little bit more attention on resetting our priorities and leave you here, hopefully this morning, ready to go out with aligned action. Action that is aligned with your awareness and acceptance of what's most important to you. So let's play with this a little bit more then and see what we can do. The first step, I love this quote, we do not choose to be born, we do not choose our parents or the country of birth. We do not, most of us, choose to die, nor do we choose the time and conditions of our death. But within this realm of choicelessness, we do choose how we live. And I want you to think about that as you see this video. If we can dim the lights again, please. That brings that point home even a little bit more. Oh, please, Lord, work with me here. Score. spending our dash and our time that we are given here, again, more mindfully for our children and ourselves. To do that, I'm going to encourage you to, on the back side of the last page that now stapled in your handout, to use the back side of your handout to just, as a free blank page worksheet, play with me for a little bit here. Again, this is a sampling of a larger project we spend time on in my coaching programs. But if you just look at these 8, 9 areas of life, I want you to go ahead and think for a minute about which 3 are most important to you in your life right now. Which aspects of your life these 3 are most important that you'd like to be spending more time on. Which are the next 3 that are medium important, and what are the next 3 that are important but perhaps less so if you had to choose. So I want you to go ahead and write down your top 3, middle 3, and bottom 3. Re-scramble the deck and recognize a top 3, a middle 3, and a lower 3. They're all important, right? It's not that we're going to live without any of these. It's a matter of recognizing what's more important and less important to you right now. So it divides up to 3, 3, and 3 if you fill in the blank, the other blank, with something that maybe I haven't thought of that's an important area to you, or a life area you're having to deal a lot with. You know, we could make this a list of 100. I picked a few random things right now. Your financial wealth and circumstances, your job and career satisfaction, and how you're feeling about that. Your physical environment and surroundings, the safety, the neatness, the beauty in your physical environment. Your material possessions, the things you own, you buy, you work hard to be able to afford to purchase and take care of. Your physical well-being, your health and well-being, your body, enough rest, sleeping, exercise, your physical health, and your psychological health or well-being. Your mental focus, your emotional functioning, even your spiritual in this. We can tease those out, but right now, psychological functioning or well-being, we're talking mind and spirit. Then we can go on to your relationships, your family relationships, your friends or community relationships, or others. So go ahead then, and on the top half of your page, top 3 most important, next 3 important, the next 3 important but less so. If I had to choose, gee, if I only had a limited time, what would be more important and less important, because I can't do it all. It is all important. It's all real. Force yourself to reflect on what's more and less for you right now. And that can be different next year. It can be different tomorrow, but right now. So you have them sorted into 3 groups roughly. We'll call those groups A, B, and C, okay? In your A group, within the A group now, and maybe you didn't get it all flushed out, but you've got hopefully your top 3 at least. In your A group, go ahead and now number them 1, 2, and 3 within that group. Most important, more important, important, less important. People are starting to squirm. Yeah. No right answer, but an honest one to yourself, to your truth. So within that A group, you now have A1, A2, and A3. I want to pause for a minute. We're going to use this and play with this, but I want to pause also. When you say, I don't have enough time, I'm struggling with getting everything done in a day, this is also a very useful sort for prioritizing your daily to-do list if it looks more like laundry, groceries, fix the car, don't forget to bathe and dress the kids before sending them out the door. When your list looks like that, you can take a minute to jot down a handful of things and then go ahead and sort them by top third, middle third, bottom third, of what's most important if I have only today, only 24 hours in a day to get it done. Make your to-do list and then do a quick ABC sort, and then within A and B, do 1, 2, 3, right? 1, 2, 3. I didn't invent that. It came from a Franklin Covey time management course I took 20 years ago. But it's a useful way to consciously pay attention to your time so that if by the end of the day you only got through 6 out of your 10 to-do items, you can feel good knowing they were the 6 most important ones on your to-do items, yes? And you can go to bed going, yeah, okay, I didn't get 4 things done, but I know they were the less important things. And you can sleep better knowing that than helter-skelter, okay? So it's just a small little tool or strategy for your parenting toolkit that we offer you. Right now we're kind of looking at the bigger picture, but it also works for the little picture. Okay? So with this in mind, and you've got your A group, I want you to go ahead now on the bottom half of your paper. This is only for yourself again as well. Go ahead and fill in the blank or finish these sentences, focusing on A1 or maybe A2. I want you to pick an area of your life now that you just labeled as most important, thinking about A1 or maybe A2 or from that top group, what's most important to me right now about that. What's something more specific? Or you can just write down. What's most important to me is my psychological well-being right now. It's really important to me to work on my mental health. Or what's most important to me right now is working on my finances, or whatever you came up with, right? Then the second question is what I want more of in that domain. What would improve that area of my life? What I wish I could have in this area of my life is blank. So now go ahead and write it down. Make it real for yourself. You'll get out of this what you put into it, right? I invite you to go ahead and write down what I want more of in this domain, in my A1 most important area, is blank. And, okay, I didn't do my PowerPoint slides right, so you already see what's coming. But usually people go, okay, I wrote it down, and then what's the next thing that plays in your mind? But. So go ahead and write down what your big but is. All right? This is what's really important to me, and I'd really like more of this, or here's how I'd like to really see it improve. But what gets in your way when you want more of that? And write down what gets in your way. But what keeps you from getting more of that and what you say is most important? Okay? All right, so now we're going to play for a minute, and this is where, again, I apologize to the TV audience, but to keep things moving, I'm going to just ask for a few quick people who are willing to share what's important to you, what would you like more of, and what's your but that's getting in the way. Anyone care to share? I'm going to take 2 or 3, please.
What's most important is my family relationship.
Great, family relationships.
And I want more time to spend with my children and my husband.
More time, what kind of time? Fun time. More fun with my kids and husband, but
But I work too much and am almost too tired to do so.
yes, but I work too much and I'm too tired to do so. Anyone relate to that? How many? Have a very similar thing, okay? A lot. Thank you for sharing that. But there's too many other things to do. I have to work and I'm feeling tired, and so that has me feel like I don't have enough time. Thank you for sharing. Another one, yes?
So I eliminated the important, and I put what's important to me right now. I focus heavily on my job and my career.
Okay.
My other time is family relationships and improving my relationship with friends and community.
Okay, want to improve family relationships and friends?
But I fear that if my job and my career is not as successful, then that will have a long-term heavy impact on my relationship with my friends and family.
Right.
So I'm a graduate student, and therefore, I don't have partners that become that
Yeah.
priority.
Right. Right.
Then that will impact my relationship.
I spend a lot of time on my job right now as a grad student, the demands of the job of being in that graduate program, and what I want more of is time with family and friends, but I'm afraid taking time away from my work effort will jeopardize my long-term viability and ultimately then cost my relationships as well. I don't know how, or I'm struggling with balancing those demands right now. I don't feel like I have enough time to do both, perhaps. Okay, anybody else? One more? Yes.
What's more important to me is helping my family connect in a positive way.
Want my family to connect in more positive ways.
But everybody's following a different schedule.
But we're all on different schedules, so it seems like there's,
No time for everybody.
but there's just not enough time. Right, right, okay? So I've been, this time choicing program came to me because doing workshops like this for 10, 15, 20 years now, guess what keeps coming up as the number one answer? Now, there are plenty of other things, resources, exhaustion, finances, ultimately it comes down to I'm trading off making some choices about this. And so with this as the most common answer, I want to offer you, speaking of time, right, we did start late. We're going to run a little late. I have the blessings of the coordinators here to do so. We'll have a little bit shorter break and starting a little later for the sessions. But bear with me now while we do a couple things with this to make sure this was worth your while. I've set you up now to say, oh, this is really important to me. I want more of this, but I don't have enough time. I don't feel like I can figure out how. I'm going to give you a few tools to leave here today to maybe start to change that blockage. And the first is to recognize the serenity prayer and the power of it and to bring that into your daily life. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. There's the catch. There's always a catch. The wisdom to know the difference. I was working with a teenage boy in my office the other day who was struggling with some things, and I showed him a plaque that I have right over top of my office desk, and this is on that plaque, and I bought it when I was 14 years old in a gift shop in Nantucket Island, and it has been hanging in every room I've ever lived in or worked in since I was 14. And again, doesn't mean I practice it perfectly every day, but I use it to recenter and reground me in how to manage the demands that we're all facing. I shared that with the teenager. He was blown away. He was 14. That was the connection. And I'm like, yeah, well, I got this when I was 14. He's like, no way. All right, so we're working on acceptance, and extending out that serenity prayer, if you will, is focusing on circles of control. How do I don't have enough time to do both of these things. Well, let's focus on that for a minute, and to do that, I'm going to share with you a drawing. Do we have markers? And one way to rethink about this, a tool for your toolkit, parenting toolkit, is to think about, there's two types of things in the world. The things I can control, surrounded by a whole bunch of things that I can't control. They exist. There's certain, my graduate advisor wants me to get a certain paper done by a certain time. I've got this other stress. I've got people going in other directions. They want to do other things. There's some things that I feel I can't control, and within that, there are certain things you can control. One of the things you can control is how you perceive the situation. So, I'm about to introduce you to a Jedi mind trick. Be careful. The exact same circumstances of whatever demands you're struggling with in your daily life, and you spend all your time thinking about, worrying about, talking about to your neighbors, your colleagues, getting in the lunchroom and complaining about all those things you can't control, and if you spend all your time thinking about, worrying about those things that you can't control, what happens to your power? Shrinkage. Okay? Because what you focus on grows. Yes, thank you. What you focus on expands. So if you spend all your time focusing on the sphere of things that are out of your control, your sense of control diminishes. If the exact same circumstances are stressing you out, but you spend your time thinking about, self-talking, sharing with your spouse or your friend or your colleague the pieces that you can do something about, what happens to your power? It grows and expands. Because what you focus on, perception helps determine reality. So yes, there's some of both. Let's get real and talk about, and for any given circumstances, and again, in our extended workshops, we go into more detail and we elaborate on this, on the things you're trying to balance, and we break down what are those things you're dealing with very specifically that you can't control, what's a piece within that you can control, and mostly where are you spending your mental energy and perception. So which circle do you want to be living in more, is my question to you. Do you want to be doing this more or this more? And you do have some power over that. So again, I'll leave you with that as a tool for your parenting toolkit to think how you might want to use it. And we'll start wrapping up here now shortly with a final exercise or two. If you wanted more fun time with family to build family relationships, about how much time a week do you think you'd need to actually feel like you had a change in the quality of life? What if we had an hour every other day? What if you had a half hour every day? A half hour every day for the most important thing she wants, which is more positive quality time in her family relationships. And she says, yeah, if we had a half hour a day, that would be awesome. But, right, it feels like there's too many other things and demands and people are going in too many directions and I don't have the time. We don't have the time. How many hours in a week? 168. -3 for your family relationships. If we go a half hour a day, 6 days a week, we'll give you a day off or a day to be imperfect, so you don't get to that half hour family time every day. So a half hour a day times 6 days a week is 3 hours a week. 168 minus your 3 hours of quality family time a week still leaves 165 for the rest of the world to not fall apart. I promise you, all the other things on the to-do list can get done. But the kid doesn't want to leave his game. He'll have time for his iPod. He'll have time for other things. You'll have time for grocery shopping in the other 165. As demanding as graduate school is, you're going to be more productive on your papers if you give yourself, an hour a day to whatever. Spend that time with what you said was most important, because when you do that, it is energy gaining. And when you are engaged in something that's energy gaining for you, the rest of it gets better too, yes? Makes sense? But, oh, Peter, no, I don't have 165 left for all those other demands because I got to sleep. Okay, yes, you do. So, Surprising Life Math Part 2. I'll give you that. And here's a quick example. And again, in our coaching programs, we work on this more elaboratively and specifically for you. But just as an example, in my life, I sleep about 7 hours a night. Roughly 11 to 6, try to get some sleep, and maybe I get 1 extra hour on the weekend, so I like round numbers. So 7 hours a night times 7 nights is 49, plus that 1 extra hour, 50 hours a week sleeping, all right? We're going to look at 4 categories of life functioning here and how we're managing our time. 1, okay, I got to give sleep hours, 50. In fact, again, we're sacrificing sleep is not the answer. We're not more productive in any aspect of our life if we're sacrificing sleep. Again, neuroscience imaging studies are showing tremendous sleep deprivation, stressors, and problems in our kids today, as well as our adults. Another workshop for another day. Okay, yeah, but I got to work.